Welcome, my dear ones. This is Tracey Anderson-Askew, your host for the Transform Your Birth podcast, changing your mind about birth one story at a time. Each week, we'll be exploring a birth story through the lens of what birth can teach us. I'll be digging deep into each story so you can learn what it is that can change the way a birth unfolds. We can't control birth, but we can influence it. So listen in to find out how. Enjoy. Today I'm sharing with you a little presentation on how birth sets you up for parenting. When a baby is born, so is a mother. There are many inner forces that are being activated, and I want to highlight the innate intelligence we have inside of ourselves and start to work towards optimising our physiological response to labour, as there are many benefits on the other side. This is a way of looking at birth that is rarely given any attention. I really hope you enjoy it. I would also like to acknowledge that not everyone listening to this podcast who is having a baby identifies as a woman. I want to extend my care and respect to you and acknowledge that these changes are indeed happening for you too, and how they manifest is different for everyone. I will, however, be using female pronouns to honour the age-old traditions of birthing. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome for another episode of the Transform Your Birth podcast. We're going to do something a little bit different today. I'm just going to do a little presentation on how birth sets us up for parenting. People don't realise that the way we give birth acts as a catalyst for walking through that door and setting the scene for what's on the other side. Now, I think it's really ironic that my career has been developed on me teaching people how to breathe and give birth. It's a bit of a weird profession, since these are two of the most fundamental human activities we do as a species. So why have I been able to build a career on this? What has gone amiss in our society that we now need to have to learn to breathe better and to give birth? And why does it matter? Well, birth does matter. And I learnt this on a train. Let me tell you a story. I was on a train once trying to escape my own family for a well-earned break. And I was in a carriage with a very new young mother. She was a teenage mother who had a screaming baby. And as a mother myself, I couldn't ignore the distress and went to offer a helping hand. She asked if I could hold her baby while she went to the toilet. And when she was gone, I managed to settle the exhausted baby into a nice deep sleep. When she returned, I thought, well, I'll stay close to her with the baby, and I sat with her and held her baby so she could have a rest. And so we were sitting next to each other. And on the other side of the aisle was this beautiful, kind, older woman she was like a true elder. She was just beautiful. And we got into a discussion about parenting. And I explained I was a childbirth educator and helping women to overcome their fear of childbirth. And the older woman started to tell me her story of birth and how awful it was. And it actually brought her to tears. Now, that birth story was over 60 years old, and it still haunted her heart. And that's when I learnt that birth matters. You see, when a baby is born, so is a mother, and that's why it matters. We are being upgraded. I like to think or talk about the fact that we're being stretched, we're being expanded, we're being pruned, we're being shattered. We are never the same again. And we have to be bigger because our babies demand that of us. And traditionally, there's been much wisdom cultivated through different cultures all over the world about what new parents need during this time. But we've lost a lot of that wisdom, focusing on things that really don't matter and not understanding the evolutionary process that woman is going through as she becomes a mother. I was very fortunate to experience that wisdom when I was having my first baby. You see, my own story is really what set me up to do this work. I was pregnant with Sam and enjoying a very straightforward pregnancy until about 36 weeks. And at 38 weeks, I realised I had the wrong doctor. And so at 38 weeks, I changed my model of care. I went to a different doctor at a different hospital, got a completely different opinion, around managing the fact that my son was in the breech position. He was upside down. And talking to one doctor saying one thing and one doctor saying another just blew open my perception around birth. Learning to understand that there's different ways of approaching it, different belief systems, different ways of thinking and training around birth. Some people see birth as something to be managed and controlled, and other people are more happy to trust the process and only come in where needed. And so when I met that second doctor and got a completely different view, it really opened up my eyes. And then I found myself an independent midwife who I decided would be the person who would support me through the labour, because I knew that the labour, having a baby that's upside down, was going to be really important. Now, she was absolutely incredible. I to this day, I know when her birthday is, I think about her often, and I recently reached out to her because she really did act as that wise woman coming into my world and helping me to tap into what was already there. When I look at that birth, I look at how she choreographed the support. She knew, she could feel, she could sense where I was. She knew what to do when I got a bit tetchy and angry. She could see that I was getting close to the end. She helped me to rest between contractions, and then she got me to be a little bit active again. She included Peter, my husband, in the whole process, and she made us feel like a team. And when that baby was born, I was as high as a kite for days. Now, my breastfeeding journey wasn't that easy, and she was there for me when I needed her. But one thing that really had been ignited inside of me was this kind of determination. And I remember thinking, God, if I can bloody feed this baby, if I can birth this baby, I can feed it as well. Something fierce had been ignited, and I was ready for those next challenges after my son Sam was born. So this is what really woke me up to what a significant period of time this is. And whilst it's not the type of birth that matters, it's what gets activated in the mother. And I don't care how straightforward or tricky a birth becomes, if a woman is surrounded by the right type of care, where her emotional state is respected, her voice is heard, and we give those conditions of love and care, then even if she needs help, that activation can still happen. So let's look at how we've gone astray by describing, I guess, the average pregnant woman's experience as she's about to walk through the doorway into being a mother. Let's look at this in our culture right now. See if you relate. First, we find out we're pregnant. We must keep it a secret for 3 months just in case. We often feel sick and worry about losing the baby. We need to hide our feelings and our symptoms to pretend. In the second trimester, we get to revel in letting people know, and we get showered with enthusiasm and birth stories and advice. And so the noise has begun. The mother's mind is starting to be filled with a whole lot of opinions. We have a thirst for knowledge because that's the currency of this age. We think if we know everything, then we can control things, avoid bad things happening, or not be left in a vulnerable position. We compare ourselves to what we see on the highlight reels of social media. And whilst it seems okay to do that, it tends to leave us feeling with a sense in the pit of our gut that we're just not quite enough as we strive to get it right. And then the last trimester, we have our baby shower. We get given stuff, play games, and eat lots of food. And then there's this nesting period. And we tend to think about nesting as cleaning things we normally wouldn't clean. And so we decide to work right up until the 40 weeks so we can have more time with the baby afterwards. We deny those inner feelings of wanting to disconnect from the noisy world and to start to deeply rest. And we say to ourselves, I'll only get bored anyway. I want to spend more time with the baby. And we deny ourselves this final stage of pregnancy. And all through this, Our wise women come in the form of health professionals, different ones for pregnancy, birth, postnatal, and after that. It's fractured, there's conflicting advice, and it focuses on the aliveness of the mother and baby. It doesn't reflect the deeper changes at play. And then we give birth, and what a ride that is. And we discover we were never in control. And so we wonder why we struggle to make the transition from maiden to mother. You see, we've broken these significant times into parts, fragments of medical care focused on the safety of the mother and baby, but missing the point. It isn't just the birth of a baby, it's the birth of a mother too. It will be the mother who has to step up and meet the intense needs of a newborn baby. From the perspective of the mother, it's just one long path, and yet it can feel like a conveyor belt of a production line, but we are not a product. When transitioning our way into motherhood, we do not want people to be doing things to us. We want to be reassured, guided, and to feel confident in the people supporting us. We want relationship with those people, one of trust and openness, and our voices to be heard. We want to feel like we can open up about our fears and be listened to, and learn things that can help us manage those fears. We need to walk this well-worn path, carved by women since the beginning of time, to overcome all of the obstacles, make the journey, and allow the path to teach us what we need to know to become the mother. When a woman becomes a mother, she needs to be bigger. And I don't just mean her belly and breasts, although that happens too. She needs to expand her capability to be ready for the responsibility of a newborn. The mother is a bigger version of the woman. So let's look at how this is actually happening. What's going on in your body and your brain to bring you into readiness to be the mother? Well, things are changing. Our body is growing, which makes us tired because that's a big job. Our brain is changing. It's being shattered and reorganized. Synaptic pruning is happening to help us be the mother. We can't listen to heavy conversations. We don't like crowds or violent movies. We intuitively start protecting ourselves and our baby from unnecessary avoidable stress. We have a part of our brain called the amygdala, the part that registers danger, and that's growing, which is getting us ready to be hyper alert and vigilant about the survival of the baby. Our limbic brain gets more active, and that means we're more emotional. This will help us get ready to attune and bond with the baby. Our cortex, rational brain, gets turned down to help us to read our baby. We need to feel, not think. And nobody tells us this. They just laugh at our mistakes and call it baby brain. And we're left feeling a bit embarrassed and a bit stupid as we try to push against these changes. And then, of course, it's worth knowing about oxytocin, the love hormone, and it starts to really take shape in our bodies. During the pregnancy and the birth, our oxytocin hits new heights. Oxytocin, the hormone of love, is what fuels the contractions. It's what makes labor happen. It also happens to be the hormone of orgasm, bonding, and connection. Okay, so it's a feel-good hormone. Mother Nature wants us to keep wanting to have babies. She didn't design labor to be awful, so we only ever have one baby and never again. But we can't make full use of that wonderful feel-good hormone if we're full of stress and adrenaline. In fact, adrenaline counteracts oxytocin. And I think it's fascinating that just prior to the birth, if the mother has managed to maintain these levels of oxytocin, she then gets a big surge that gives her uterus the last push of that baby. Not only that, it crosses the blood-brain barrier, lighting up all of the reward centers in her brain, getting her ready for this peak moment of meeting her baby. When you look at the incredible hormones related to this phase, they give you superpowers. However, with complex and socially conditioned brains like ours, we can't make use of these hormones when there's so much noise, fear, worry, concern, other people's stories in there. Stress hormones will get in the way of these performance-enhancing hormones. So you can see that it's all connected, this path, setting you up for the next stage and the one after that, to be ready to meet this baby and fall in love. Let me share another story with you. I have an auntie who has 15 children. Her name is Auntie Robin. And of course, when you become a childbirth educator, you're going to want to talk to your Auntie Robin who has 15 children. I said to her, Auntie Robin, tell me about your births. And she said, every one was different, just like every one of my children is different. Really? I replied. I think I thought after 7 or so kids, they'd just kind of fall out of you. And then she went on to say this, that she believed her pregnancy and birth was preparing her to parent this child. And often very symbolic of the nature of the child. And I just paused for a moment, and I had 4 children myself by this time. And so when she said this, I started to connect the dots. I started to see the links between my own experiences of managing my pregnancies and the type of birth that I had with each one, and the nature of each one of my children. Think about that. There's more at play than you just giving birth to a piece of meat. You are giving birth to a human soul. Each one a one-of-a-kind, unique piece of creation, never to be repeated. So it makes sense, doesn't it, that this connection that you have with your baby, yes, it's through the cord, but it's not just a connection of physiology. It's a dance between the two of you, soul to soul, body to body, each one preparing the other for the next stage of life. I just want to share with you now a little piece of, a little blog that I wrote recently called A Call to Motherhood. And it's about this topic. What she experiences during the birth process is designed to set her up for parenting. She needs to let go of the baby from her body and then ultimately from her life as they forge their own path. She needs to surrender to not being able to control birth, and she needs to surrender to her child, knowing that she can't control them or their life. She needs to let go of her fears of the pain of childbirth and of the pain inherent to parenting. She needs stamina to get through the labour and stamina to get through their childhood. She needs resources to find comfort during labour, to deal with the intensity. She needs resources to find comfort during the intensity of guiding this one through life. She needs to ask for help during the birth as she is vulnerable. She needs to ask for help during parenting because it is not a job to be done alone. She needs to travel into the mystery with this child of what lies ahead. She doesn't know who this baby is and what they are going to deliver into her life, how they will bring her great joy and great pain. She needs to push through what she thinks she can do during childbirth to discover a well of inner resources to draw on and discover she is much more than she thinks. You see, she can't escape birth. She can't go backwards. She has to see it through. And this continues into parenting. We can't put them back where they came from. She will never escape this child. They are lodged fully and deeply into her heart and very existence. It's all connected. Pregnancy, birth, parenting, one big journey demanding you to grow together and walk into the mystery of what lies ahead. It's a path we must value. And when women need help and her path gets rocky and complicated, then we must help her to make up for what was lost. Can you see the connection? So what if we value the significance of this time as a key catalyst for the upgrade of the human, a window of opportunity fundamental to our growth and evolution as a human being? What if we could be more strategic and considered when we light the path for her with good quality education, support, and community? And that's certainly what we strive to do here at Transform Parenting. And if more and more women were able to receive this type of care, medical care, as well as community type care, do you think this might change the world? You see, there is nothing random about the blueprint of creation. The fact that women, when feeling safe, loved, and supported in birth, can produce peak amounts of oxytocin during such a significant and life-changing moment, imprinting their babies, upgrading herself to be ready to parent with love, expanding her capacity to love this baby and others she might have. And this new capacity for love just might flow on to her partner, her extended family, her community, her planet. The ripples of love can flow indefinitely. And when children are raised with love, they flourish and unlock their own blueprint of potential. And we really need that right now because our world needs the very best of us as humans. We need to recognize the significance of this time for new parents to create a pathway that takes into account not just the health of the baby, but the development of the baby's parents. We need to surround the family with wise education, support, and community so their own blueprint of potential can be activated, just like my Auntie Robin. I'm going to finish with a quote from my Auntie Robin. She said to me once, "Just when you think you can't love another child, and then you do." So she's a living example of what I'm talking about. It starts at the beginning. And if we can set families up with peak amounts of oxytocin, who knows what's possible from here. So I hope you've enjoyed today's talk. It's something very close to my heart, and it certainly drives me in doing what I do. And join us again next week for some more goodness from the Transform Your Birth podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And if you feel compelled, please leave a review of this podcast. See you again. Bye. This episode has been brought to you by Transform Parenting, an organisation that provides courses, coaching and community from pregnancy through to the first 7 years of a child's life. It is a place where you can learn, get support and grow into your role as a parent. Our Transform Your Birth course, both in Canberra and online, is waiting for you to feel calmer and more confident to give birth and change the way you labour. Or why not watch our free masterclass on Keeping Relaxed and Excited About Birth, where we discuss the 3 most important things that can change a birth. You'll find us at our website on www.transformparenting.com.au.